ladies and gentlemen, I would like to welcome you to our conference entitled Hungary in KFOR, organized as a joint event by the Institute for Foreign Affairs and Trade and Institute for Strategic and Defense Studies here at the National University of Public Service. My name is Zoltán Egeresi, and I work at both institutions, and I will be the moderator of this event, which will be divided into two parts. And the first one, we will have two distinguished guests, keynote speakers, Gergely Németh, who is the Deputy State Secretary for Defense Policy of the Ministry of Defense in Hungary, and Major General Ferenc Kajári, who is a commander of Kosovo force. But before giving inviting them to share their ideas about the Hungarian participation in the Kosovo force, the experiences and so on, I would like to give the floor to the director of the Institute for Foreign Affairs and Trade, to Mr. Márton Ugrosdi, to open this session. So, Mr. Ugrosdi, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Zoltán. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's a great pleasure to have all of you here in this online conference. I wish we could organize this in person, but the pandemic is still not over yet, but hopefully we will be able to get back to normal operations soon. But the online format also allows us to have the high-level speakers today who would otherwise be very hard to get. And I'm very grateful that they have accepted our invitation and will be sharing their thoughts and experiences on the stability of the Balkans, as well as the Hungarian involvement in that. Obviously, the question of the stability of Southeast Europe is one of the major foreign and security policy issues that Hungary is dealing with. And it's no surprise, I think, that both of our institutions, the Institute for Foreign Affairs and Trade, as well as the Institute for Strategic and Defense Studies, is putting special emphasis on understanding the dynamics of the region, not only the countries themselves, which are located here, but also the influence of great powers, the influence of extremism in certain cases, as well as the sustainability of the economic cooperation between these countries, as well as outside players like the European Union. And for that, I'm delighted that we were able to organize this event today. And since I'm not an expert on the region, I'll try to keep my intervention short. I'm really glad that we're having this conversation today. And without any much further ado, I would like to pass the word back to Zoltán, who will be inviting the high-level speakers on the floor, on the virtual floor. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. And in this case, I would like to invite Mr. Gergely Németh. So please, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Zoltán. Thank you, Márton. Thank you for the virtual floor. So before everything, first of all, allow me to really convey my most sincere gratitude for Márton especially, but also Zoltán and the organizers for their idea to have a conference indeed on the KFOR and the Hungarian contribution to it. Personally, I think that it would have been very strange to finish this historical one-year period of this mission without having talked about why and in what ways it was and it is important for the long-term security of Hungary, as well as the whole of the Western Balkans region. I was, on the other hand, very, very much relieved as I looked through the range of all the great experts who will be presented today, including the fantastic Major General Kajári, as I'm sure that they will tell you all what matters about the Western Balkans and regarding the KFOR. Thus, with your permission, I would like to put my focus elsewhere, namely the evolution and the subsequent execution of the idea of providing a commander to the KFOR by Hungary. It is a story which is reflecting on the development of the Hungarian strategic thinking during the last several years, as well as to what is most important for me as a defense policy director. It is reflecting how alliances, defense policy, and military strategy is working. Looking back into the history of the KFOR, probably we should acknowledge that the idea of taking the utmost responsibility over this mission has always been there. The main parameters for such ambition should be clear to all of us. KFOR is a mission by our security alliance, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. It relates to the Hungarian ambition to provide security instead of consuming it. And most importantly, KFOR is directly stabilizing a region which is adjacent to ours. It is not a coincidence then that Hungary has begun contributing forces to KFOR almost immediately after our NATO accession already in 1999. The initial number of the contingent was around 350 strong in a KFOR mission of more or less 50,000 soldiers. Later on, the security situation has started to improve, corresponding troop levels began to decrease to 39,000 by 22, which almost then halved by the next year. Then the reduction continued, reaching the current level of around 4,000, a bit less. In order to set the context, I have to add that it is today by far the largest NATO mission. While the mission was being seamlessly adapted to the developing security situation, Hungary was also gaining strength and confidence to add one more infantry company to our initial contribution. Later, a bit later on, the contingent was rearranged into a coherent unit, the EHTF KFOR battalion, and it was also augmented by CIMIC and PSYOPS elements. At that time, the KFOR battalion was already the main effort by the HDF in terms of operational center of gravity, in terms of military strategy for deployment, but it was still only a mere item in the greater diplomatic toolbox, which have tried to balance our lack of defense investment at that time with more troops on the ground. 2014 saw the closure of the ISAF mission in Afghanistan, and the adjustment of NATO's posture manifested in many forms. In a foremost manner, the new mission called Resolute Support Mission. This also allowed readjusting the Hungarian operational footprint, and as a result, our national contingent to KFOR has been augmented by or into an extra maneuver battalion with additional niche capabilities. 2014-2015 should be considered a strategic milestone, as the Hungarian defense sector would have had the chance at that time to absorb the troops which have been coming home from Afghanistan, but instead it chose to reallocate, reinvest them. To put it in more professional terms, we could say that instead of absorbing the peace dividend, our available troops have been reinvested to the Western Balkan security, and accordingly, accordingly into the wider Hungarian and allied security interest in the region. This year also signaled already the start of a trend when Hungary is consciously becoming a lead contributor, or one of the lead contributors to this mission, and one ally which can always be counted for long-term commitment equally. As a recognition of such progress and also intense lobbying, Brigadier General Ferenc Kajári, later Chief of Defense, was chosen to become the first Deputy COMK4 for this mission. That was a real breakthrough at that time. By that time, our contribution fluctuated around 4,000, which meant that 10% of the mission was contributed by Hungary, and we have become one of the 5 top or major troop contributing nations. So that was when the landscape really began shifting. Then between 2014 and 2019, as you all know better than me, major European powers, major allies have increasingly began to divert their resources to the new emerging security challenges, either manning the enhanced forward presence battalion groups in the Baltics and Poland, tailored forward presence in Romania and Bulgaria, or tackle the so-called southern challenges ranging from the Sahel to Afghanistan. It has signaled at that time a profound change in the European security perception and a shift in the subsequent priorities. The centrality of the Western Balkan mission has been challenged by new emerging tasks, but not for us. It's not for Hungary. We have been able to sustain our contingent despite the fact that the HDF was increasingly committed elsewhere as well, ranging from increasing border protection duties to participating also in RSM mission and other missions as well. We have stayed on our course regardless of other circumstances, and we have stayed on our course regarding the Western Balkans. It all, I believe, further proved to our partners that we are reliable and committed allies who indeed care for the region and once again can be counted within the region for long term. After all of this, it should not come to you as a surprise that already before the major reduction of the Afghanistan deployment, Hungarian military and defense leadership was already eyeing the next opportunity to reinvest troops into the Western Balkans theater. It was by that time already supported by the strong strategic conviction that Hungary can add more value to the long-term stabilization and parallel development of the region. As you know very well, the Western Balkans is part of the highest security and foreign priorities of Hungary and the political leadership as well. So for us, the importance of the region was growing even more as major European powers began to disengage between 2014 and 2019. Such a trend clearly required concerted and reinforced efforts from allies who prioritized the stability and security of the Western Balkans, more cooperation between them, more advanced planning between them, and amongst them, Hungary was slowly becoming a major stakeholder. In 2018, during the fourth generation conference at NATO HQ, Hungary officially signaled for the first time its ambition to nominate commander for the KFOR. The ambition itself was without earlier precedents, as no country at our size had ever received the right to nominate the commander of the largest NATO mission. It is not surprising that it took another 2 years to win our bid. In the crucial months of 2019 and early 2020, we had to conduct active diplomacy, ranging from foreign diplomacy to defense policy and military diplomacy, military expert discussions, in order to convince our allies about our ability to provide the KFOR and the significant troop increment in support of this bid. We have also fine-tuned our contribution package with the NATO military authorities. That was an essential part of the later success, by the way, to achieve the best possible synergy between ambitions and requirements. As a sideshow to the Western Balkans, we have also increased our contributions to other allied missions and operations from Herat in Western Afghanistan to Lebanon. In doing so, we have received crucial assistance from the government in terms of providing the resources, and by the MFA in terms of throwing its diplomatic weight behind our bid. As a net result for all these measures, which can clearly described as a whole of a government approach for pursuing a conscious strategy, Hungary has been offered the opportunity to nominate the commander for the KFOR for 1 year at 10th of July 2020. That's a truly historical milestone. And the rest is, for one part, history, and the other part, Major Kajári is much better suited to talk about what is KFOR in present days, mission, situation, whatever. As for my objective for this conference, I wanted to use this opportunity to sketch the basic tenets of the process, what amounts probably to being the most important diplomatic and defense policy feature from the last years within the realm of international as well as military relations, a true achievement. The process itself, as you could see, obliged to the basic rules of strategic planning. This is ends, ways, and means. It was a consciously driven long-term effort. Firstly, it was driven by an overarching national security policy goal, namely the importance of the Western Balkans region. Secondly, what is very important to emphasize here, it was born as a military advice. It is a military idea coming directly from the professionals. Then it was getting support from political leadership, and I would like to believe that it was also supported by an active and robust defense policy with also commensurate resource increments in support of the mission. This process took also place regarding, every strategy is taking place in a certain environment. So let's be honest, this process took place in a favorable environment where Hungary and the HDF was already considered as an increasingly important element of the KFOR construct. And it was also assisted by the developing situation regarding the what we call realignment of the Hungarian defense planning and NATO requirements. That means that we started to achieve against the capability goals and requirements which have been apportioned to us by NATO. We could do that because the Zrínyi 2026 program was started already in an aligned way to the alliance's requirement. What kind of signal it sent to the alliance? Well, the signal was that we are very much committed to traveling together towards the common path, the common direction of travel. And I think that was a very, very important signal, a very, very important element of the whole as well. I must also point out in a way that one of the indispensable elements of this success and within the process and the fact that we have achieved our ambition was the support as well as the trust of major allies. And first and foremost, I have to name Italy and the United States, but also UK, Germany, France. All of them supported our bid and believed that the Hungarian defense forces is able to deliver its share, even much more than that. And then the HDF is already sufficiently mature to generate an excellent commander for the KFOR position. Now, one question is hanging here. What are the long-term implications for all of this? Surely, there is an ongoing realignment with Italy, who appreciates the importance of the region exactly like ourselves Hungarians, and it is also sharing largely the same security perception. Added to the shared responsibility of the KFOR mission, I can also tell you that since 2019, almost every second Hungarian soldier in mission and operation is serving together with Italians, and further ways are also being explored to increase further our cooperation. The defense policy alignment towards Italy, manning common formations, doing training, and so on, is easily one of the most decisive shifts in our defense policy during the last 5 years. And it is clearly pivoted around the solidarity and shared responsibility for the Western Balkans region. Our defense cooperation with the US has also benefited from the process, and today the Western Balkans is one of the central topics in our bilateral discussions. The same applies for the UK. It was important from our side that we have not decreased operational footprint in crucial counter-terrorism missions like the Operation Inherent Resolve, and managed to maintain troop levels which commensurate with our obligations to tackle instability as a source of illegal migration and terrorism. And this is something which we have been very vocal also as a policy objective in our new national military strategy. Who has not read it yet, I would wholeheartedly offer the chance to download it and get acquainted with this. On another hand, the process of the HDF transformation was also very helpful. The evolving perception, I talked about that, but it's very important to repeat it. In Europe about the Zrínyi program is indeed very positive. It has already sent strong signals in 2019 to allies regarding our commitment to allied security and our commitment towards a firm, seamless army modernization, army transition, costly and painful, but very successful army transition. It would not have been possible without the support of the government and ultimately the support of our citizens and by the excellent job done by our soldiers in mission and operations since and even from before our NATO accession. So thus goes the story, what should serve here as a prologue to the so-called Kajári period, because this is how people are calling this inside and outside of our bubble and in publications. And so this is the tale of an ambitious idea, unwavering confidence, and also more importantly, because I will always remain a bureaucrat, so I'm appreciating good bureaucratic processes. This is a story of thorough preparations as they have met with an outstanding opportunity and even more importantly, allied solidarity. I am for myself immensely proud of every step and the process as a whole we have taken together with our military colleagues. And I should also consider this whole endeavor as a perfect whole of government with the indispensable support of the MFA in order to approach what we have today, a fulfilled ambition, which would have seemed far-fetched, even surrealistic, even 5 years ago, and today it's a reality. And this is my utmost, really utmost honor to be able to talk before the fantastic Major General Kajári. Thank you very much for your patience. I hope that my presentation delivered some useful thoughts to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Németh. Thank you for outlining the importance of KFOR within the NATO and also the gradual change in the Hungarian participation and the long road to, let's say, to acquire the top position for the KFOR. And here I would like to give the floor to Major General Ferenc Kajári to share his ideas, his experiences concerning the KFOR. So the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Mr. State Secretary. I'm already humbled by your kind words. I really thank you for the praise. I try to meet all the expectations, and together with my team, we are working on to reach that success, to prove that Hungary is able to provide a commander and a command group which is leading an operation according to the NATO requirements. It was already mentioned that in October, the Hungarian commander, myself, took over the command of KFOR. KFOR is, as we know, the longest running and most successful operation of NATO. And without doubt, this is a successful operation. And it throughout more than 22 years, it went through all the stages of a peacekeeping operation. And right now we are at the stage when the majority of KFOR tasks are monitoring the security situation, supporting the local organizations of the institutions in Kosovo, and then providing advice and support if needed as a third responder to security challenges. It was already said that this is a very important operation if we consider the security of the Western Balkans, and we already have seen that it's a huge challenge for Hungary, although it's a huge privilege also to provide a commander for such operation. So I think the Hungarian Defense Forces and the Hungarian Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Trade took this opportunity very seriously. And as the State Secretary mentioned, we in Hungary received The good news that the NATO authorities accepted our request, and Hungary had the opportunity to provide a commander from the fall of 2021, quite an early stage in 2020. And this provided us an opportunity to make a thorough preparation for this demanding task, and we took it really seriously. My preparation started almost exactly a year prior to the handover takeover ceremony. In October 2020 was the first occasion that we started the preparatory program, put together the preparation plan, and we drafted an ambitious program together with the Ministry of Defense and Mr. State Secretary and his personnel, and try to involve all those involved parties in this preparation who can provide advice and help to get to know the area, to get to know what are the major issues, the problems, and what are the major challenges of KFOR. Throughout this preparation, we conducted the national preparation program, and that was a very extensive one, but also drafted an international portion as well. And we visited all the NATO headquarters, consulted with the experts of the area. And in these consultations, I think I have to highlight that the most important support was provided by Italy, the Italian Defense Forces, and the commanders, the previous commanders of KFOR. They generously offered their support, and I was able to establish a very good cooperation with the at that time commander of KFOR, Major General Ferenc Kajári. And almost throughout his command period, he was very open, very frank, and provided several opportunities for me and for my staff to visit KFOR and spend some time here at KFOR headquarters. So gradually we were able to get to know the area, learn the small nuances of the task of a commander and the command group, and were able to put together a very capable Hungarian command support team. Also, I had the chance to exchange views with the prior commanders of KFOR. I was able to talk with General Fungo, who was commanding KFOR years ago, and he also provided some valuable advice and a very good insights how a staff is working in a NATO operation and what are the challenges in an international community. Also, Major General Rizzi was a very helpful commander during the preparation. Visited him even in Italy, and he provided an opportunity to and shared his views, his ideas about the KFOR command, and also described what were the challenges he was facing and what we should look for and what we should be prepared for. So I think this support and this ambitious preparatory program was worthwhile and proved very, very useful for the preparation. And it also provided me an opportunity to realize that this is really a challenging position. However, I had the feeling that it will not be easy. And then during the preparation, it was reinforced. However, even after all this preparation, I have to admit that I wasn't really prepared and wasn't really foresee the real challenges of commanding such a large and long-running operation in this environment. I have to tell you that since I took over the command of KFOR on the 15th of October, if I look back for this almost more than 4 months, it looks like a constant roller coaster ride. So there were rarely any quiet moments, and it's not just the main reason for this is not that Kosovo, the KFOR area of operation, is such a turbulent area right now. I can fairly confidently say that the security situation is stable, however fragile as NATO always assessing the situation. But still, even in this stable situation, to command such an organization with 28 nations and more than 3,500 troops in this environment, it's a challenging task. We know that KFOR is a well-established organization. Since 1999, it is operating in this area. The camps, the facilities, the procedures are established. KFOR constantly have been able to adapt to the changing security environment and currently has the necessary force, the suitable posture to meet all the operational requirements and accomplish the tasks as required by the higher NATO authorities. We will have the resources what is needed to accomplish our mission, and we have all the capabilities. We have kinetic, non-kinetic units that are conducting their daily activities. We have very capable intelligence surveillance reconnaissance assets. Also, stability policing is among our capabilities. And unlike, well, as a major military unit, we also have quite a sizable media presence. So KFOR has its own radio. We are reaching the audience all over Kosovo. And I have to tell you that according to the survey, the KFOR radio is the 5th most listened to radio in Kosovo. So it gives me a reassurance that KFOR has all the assets and we can reach the population in Kosovo and can accomplish our mission. We are also present in the social media and we are trying to improve our capabilities and reach all segments of the population and conducting CINIC projects all over Kosovo in favor of all ethnic groups of the Kosovo population. So if I list all these capabilities, you see that to command such an organization is really not a simple job. It requires lots of attention to detail, and also requires a very rigorous staff work. So a good personnel is needed, a good staff is needed, because everyone should know what is their job and how to conduct it professionally. And I have to admit that we have that capable staff. KFOR is having the necessary capabilities and able to provide all the necessary staff work what we have here. But still, it's a challenging job to oversee all this and coordinate what we are doing, how we are doing it, in a way that we should reach the desired effects at the end in the operational area. So I talked about the challenges and the preparation. And during the preparation, I thought that probably the most important task for the commander will be to establish good relationship with all the key players in the area, maintain and establish good connection with the international organizations that are operating in the area of operation of KFOR and working together with KFOR to reach the desired end state. And also the institutions in Kosovo leadership and the Serbian armed forces leadership is very important counterparts of the KFOR commander. So I already knew prior to the deployment that I need to work on this and have to establish good connections. And at the start of the command period, I really jumped into it and organized a rigorous program to to have these initial meetings as soon as possible. And I think that was a very good approach at the beginning, because it proved to be useful, because unfortunately, or fortunately, which should be decided later, the last quarter of 2021, when I took over the command, was somehow more tense if we consider the security situation compared to the previous months or the previous years. So in these tense periods, it was very crucial that the commander was able to reach the key leaders of the institutions in Kosovo. And I was able to coordinate in the international organizations, heads of missions, and all the important players. Just for a statistical overview, with my staff, we just calculated what we have done key leader engagement-wise during the past 111 days. And I have to tell you that during this period, 111 days, I had 134 key leader engagements. That means meetings and discussions and engagement with local authorities, heads of missions. And I think it shows that even just if we consider this amount of meetings, it shows that it was a very intensive period. But as I see it, that is very important for the success of the mission. As we analyze the situation in the past couple of months, whenever a security tension is emerging in the area of operations, the most important portion is the first phase, when we need to engage the relevant players, the stakeholders, and try to deliver the message to the IIK authorities or to the Serbian leadership, and direct the actions into the right direction, and deliver the right messages to the key leaders in cooperation with the international organizations. And I think that is the most important job of the commander of KFOR. And if it is conducted well, then we can avoid the escalation of the security situation in the area. And that brings me to a point which was already talked about during the preparation, that commanding such an organization as KFOR is not really a military heavy task. So the military related tasks are really minor if we compare it to the political related task of the commander. So most of the time, the commander of KFOR, however, it is a tactical level command, as it was pointed out several times. We have at the tactical level, tactical tasks to accomplish. But in spite of this, besides the technical tasks, the commander needs to engage the operational and even strategic level leadership, political decision makers, and leaders of organizations, and have to work in that arena as well. And in this way, KFOR was able to accomplish its mission and maintain the safe and secure environment as it is prescribed in the UN Security Council resolution. And I think it's crucial to continue in this way and conduct our main tactical level task and maintain the secure environment in Kosovo, because that will enable the strategic level leadership, the high level politicians to sit down at the negotiating table and discuss the outstanding questions. Because if the security is not present in the operational area, then it will divert the attentions of the strategic discussions, and everyone will deal with the tactical level security programs. So I think all in all, this describes that this position, the commander of KFOR position, is a challenging one and needs requires lots of patience, I have to say, and requires a very good team that supports the commander in the everyday work. And regarding this teamwork, I think I've been able to put together an excellent Hungarian support team. The personnel that we selected and trained during the preparation is outstanding. The military assistants, the head of the commander's office and the aide-de-camp is crucial to accomplish the daily missions of the commander, to organize the tasks and conduct it in an appropriate way. And also, we have to talk about the fact that besides providing the commander of KFOR, Hungary had to provide and fill lots of other important positions that are tied to the commander. And in itself, it shows that it's a challenge for a defense force to provide a commander for an operation, because it's just not just one person. It requires lots of assets, lots of other supporting personnel, and lots of experts in other areas. During the command period, Hungary is providing the political advisor of KFOR, which is a crucial position in this mission, since, as I said, the majority, the bulk of the work is done in the political arena, and without a good political advisor and a good political advisory team, that would not be possible. And in this respect, I just have to praise the continuous support of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Trade. They provided crucial support during the preparation. They provided a well-trained, seasoned diplomat who is familiar with the area and who is working with me as a political advisor ever since the start of the mission. And also the Hungarian embassy here in Pristina, very supportive, and we can coordinate if there is a need on the current issues, and they can provide support if there is a need. Besides the political advisor, Hungary provides the legal advisor of the commander, which is also a very important position in a military operation, since on a daily basis we need to deal with issues that have legal aspects as well, and to be on the right way, we need, or the commander needs, a well-trained and capable legal advisor as well. Beside this key personnel, the command sergeant major, the enlisted senior leader of the KFOR operation, is also a Hungarian non-commissioned officer who is very capable and provides tremendous support to me during the daily coordination of the everyday life of KFOR. So all in all, I think this shows that it's not a one-man show. We need a good team, which we have here in theater, and it requires lots of resources from the defense force who is providing the commander. My assessment is, and it's everyone's assessment in the area, that KFOR is a successful operation. It is accepted by all the parties of Kosovo, and it is the result of the continuous proved ability of KFOR to respond to security challenges in the past years, and the KFOR has always been impartial throughout the years. So my aim in the Hungarian command period, that I would like to maintain this acceptance of all the involved parties, also to maintain the impartiality, and work along these lines that have been laid down by the previous commanders. As you know, this is the 26th command period of KFOR. So I don't. Those who have been at KFOR headquarters have seen that on the command corridor we have the pictures of all the commanders of KFOR, and I have to tell you that it gives me great pride to walk along that corridor and see all the 25 commanders that commanded this great organization since 1999, and it's a privilege to belong among these commanders and to be part of this great line of leaders who led the organization in the past years. And it is a huge privilege that as a Hungarian national, I can be the first Hungarian commander of KFOR and can prove and can demonstrate that the Hungarian Defense Forces are able and capable to fulfill the requirements of providing a commander to this mission, and that the Hungarian Defense Forces and the commander appointed by Hungary to this job is capable to conduct the job according to the NATO requirement, the NATO expectations, and continue to build on the success of KFOR. And I think the fact that from the first time a small country provides a commander who joined NATO in '99 is also a good sign to all the other small countries in NATO and all the inspiring countries that if a country works hard and develops the defense forces in the right way, there will be a stage that these countries will be able to provide a commander in a NATO operation in the future and then can prove themselves. So, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. State Secretary, this is what I wanted to tell you about my experience, the preparation, and how I see the Hungarian contribution to KFOR operation. Thank you for your attention, and I wish a great success for this online conference. Thank you very much.
Major General, thank you very much for your insightful thoughts about how to manage this multinational corp, and especially concerning the Hungarian involvement in the KFOR functioning, concerning the legal advisors, other advisors, and so on. So I think that we could learn a lot from your ideas and thoughts. And here we get to the second part of our discussion. We will have a roundtable discussion entitled Hungarian Presence in KFOR, Lessons Learned. And previously we had three participants, three speakers, but unfortunately Károly Gruber from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Trade, he had to cancel his participation in the last minute due to kind of illness. Anyway, we have two excellent speakers. Gábor Boldizsár, Associate Professor who works at the Faculty of Military Science and Officer Training at the University of Public Service, and who is a former UNMIK liaison officer, so he has also really good field research experiences. And also we have in the guest panel, Ferenc Németh, who is a research fellow at the Institute for Foreign Affairs and Trade, and dealing especially with the Western Balkans, geopolitical issues, foreign political situation, and so on. And in this roundtable discussion, they will have the opportunity to talk about several questions. And after their, let's say, presentation, the floor will be given to the audience, and they can ask several questions from Professor Boldizsár and also from Ferenc Németh. And here I would like to turn to Professor Boldijar, as you have, as I mentioned, first-hand experience from Kosovo. As if I know well, you served there in 2005. Here I would like to ask you to share your experiences from this time, and also how you see the cooperation between the military and the civilian administration, and what kind of lesson can be or was learned for the Hungarian side. So the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, and good morning for everybody. First of all, I would like to say thank you for organizing this conference, and also for the previous keynote speakers, for State Secretary and also KOM KFOR. My part of my presentation and my part of my discussion is really about my personal experience and lesson learned. But this is not only a personal issue, it's also part of the Hungarian peacekeeping capabilities development, and also part of the Hungarian CIMIC and PSYOPs capabilities development. Sorry for sometimes my voice will weak, and my background is a little bit different. So I'm still in bed because I'm on a sick list. I had an accident, so I'm at home, and I'm in my bed. So please me apologize if something is not really official way. So turn back to 2005. I was selected to work for the United Nations, and the United Nations UNMIK mission in Kosovo had a very small military team. So that was only 37 military officers from different countries, and our task was to being a liaison between the KFOR and also being security advisor for different municipalities. For my first deployment, I was dropped to the West region. So I stationed 5 months in Pečpéja. That's a large city in a western area, and I had 2 municipalities I was responsible being as a security advisor, because in that time the UN ran the municipalities leadership. 2006 was the transfer of authority, when United Nations transferred the responsibilities for the local elected government and local elected municipalities leadership. So I was responsible for Dečani and also for Đakovo-Đakovica. And as you know, Dečani is one of the key points, because that's oldest monastery, one of the oldest monastery in Kosovo, still staying there, around 30 monks, and also the first UNESCO registered World Heritage, and quite important spiritual support. The state founder of Kosovo, a state founder of medieval Serbia, are lying there. His body is in a church, so it's a real focus point. The second is Đakovica, which is along bordered with Albania, and that was the police were run by the Italians mainly, and they had many smuggling problems throughout the border. So I was the military security advisor for these 2 municipalities, and according to the UN regulation, we were staying together and we were staying among the people. So our task was to not only running the official business and giving advice and sending reports, but also we had a rented accommodation in a downtown. So I was living with an Albanian family. I stayed during my free time with them. So I had a chance to discuss and get some more sense and more feeling about the population. The second part of my tour, that was 7 months, I was selected being a chief operation in Pristina, in our UN headquarters. So in that time, I was living together with a Serbian family in a Serbian enclave. So it gave me a chance to understand the both sides. I mean, in a personal, small level, mainly tactical level, understand the people feeling and their view about the future. But go back to the beginning, because this position as a United Nations military observer or United Nations military liaison officer, it's quite important. It was not unique for us, for Hungarians, because since 1992, we Hungarian military officers were participating in different United Nations missions all over in the world, starting from Angola, Mozambique, and later on we turned for sending UN forces with arms for Cyprus and sending troops for a special mission like multinational force and observers in Sinai Peninsula. But this Hungarian presence in the KFOR operation was a unique, because we were just a brand new member of the NATO. We already had experience to work in operation with the NATO, because we had already a combat support unit in Bosnia-Herzegovina in I4 and S4 operation. But this KFOR operation was, let's say, a combat element that was a guarding battalion to guarding and protecting different vital points. So, and send the KFOR battalion plus send a UNMIK liaison officer. It's a two legs from the military side to being in a KFOR structure and also being in a UNMIK structure. Because UNMIK was, in that time, has a serious tasks. That was a very complex mission. It has 4 pillars, and each pillar representing one of the security dimension. So the pillar 1 was responsible for justice system and the police. The pillar 2 was responsible for set up the administration in central and also in regional level or municipality level. The third was responsible for, let's say, trust building or relation building among the people and among the ethnics. And the fourth was responsible for economical rehabilitation, the modernization of the economy there. So that's the reason why 3 different organizations participated and sending experts for the UNMIK mission. So that's a unique. We had a UNMIK, it's a blue flag, blue helmet, but under the UNMIK, we had European Union expert, we had OSCE expert, and also we have our standard UN professional and volunteer officers and also employees. So this UNMIK representing a kind of state building effort, and the KFOR was and still responsible for the main security situation to keep calm and quiet the security situation there in Kosovo. So the relation between these 2 main actors, according to the Kosovo security, was essential. So that was the reason why from both sides we had a liaison system, from the KFOR to the UN and also from the UNMIK side to the KFOR side. So my time when I was there for a year, 2005 and the beginning of 2006, it was a time when we were just a year after the March riot happened in 2004. So all the 2004 March, all the security situation collapsed in Kosovo. So after just a year later, the situation was a quiet sense that we could feel the steps for the stability. And also on that year in 2004, there was a new program announced that's called Standards Before Status. So that was a kind of tactical action plan or a timetable what the Kosovars has to do before starting to talk about the future status of Kosovo. Because as the United Nations Security Council Resolution 1244 stated, that the future of Kosovo, the status of future of Kosovo has to depend on the dialogue between Pristina and Belgrade. So the international community decided to set up different standards and try to work together with the Kosovars to reach these standards. So in 2005, we were mainly focused on these standards and how they fulfill the standards. And also we had another important task that was called Go and See visit. So mainly the Serbians who left Kosovo during the 1999s, they feel the security is increased and they feel that they want to, or they are just thinking about to go back to their origin. They organized different visits and they came back to the village where they left during the time of 1999. So that was our task, to organize from civilian side and also working with different NGOs to let these people move to a safe environment when they can see their graves, their former houses, their former properties, and discuss with the spiritual leaders, with the monks and fathers, and try to make their hard decision in their life to turn back to Kosovo or not. So that was the circumstances. That was the situation in Kosovo that time when I served there. So West region, staying together with the Alban family, And on the central region in Čaglavica, I stayed in a Serbian family. So I really had the chance to feel the feeling of the people, to staying among the people. It's a better information gathering about the cultural background, the behavior, about everything which belongs to the human terrain. Today we call it human terrain. And that's lead us to understand the cognitive domain, why the people do this or that. So it was a good chance for this information gathering, and also the second hand, it's helped us to develop the Hungarian CIMIC and PSYOPS capability. So that time I was a deputy commander of the Hungarian CIMIC PSYOPS Center. So the things what I learned and the information what I earned during my 1 year staying in that service, we were able to use for developing the Hungarian CIMIC PSYOPS capabilities. And also we started from that year. Now in previous year, we started to publishing the CIMIC handbook for Kosovo. So that was a handbook which every KFOR troops got it, and they could read it, all the geographical, religious, cultural, historical, and political background and economic situation of Kosovo. It's really helped the troops to understand the situation where they are going to work. And also I had some connection to the Hungarian Defense Forces in that time, because 2006 was the year when we sent the Hungarian Defense Forces sent their battalion-sized troops to the West region under the Italian command. And with these battalion-sized troops, we already sent CIMIC and PSYOPS experts. Around 15 CIMIC PSYOPS subject matter experts were sent. And I, as their commander, deputy commander, we were able to make a closer cooperation for their preparation, also for the future task what they should do in the West region of Kosovo. So as a military feeling, we really had many lessons learned and many experiences and many things to take it home and to integrate to our training and for our education. So first of all, we really faced with the situation that what does it mean comprehensive approach? What does it mean when we are working in a state building? So military factor is one factor. This hard security factor is the one factor, that this is the most important factor. But also there are many other factors and actors, even in the UNMIC pillars, like I mentioned, the build up the public administration, build up the justice system, build up the police, build up the trust among the people, and also build up, rehabilitate the economy. So it's a very complex effort, which was made by two organizations, UNMIC and KFOR. And the fundamental things for the success is the cooperation and everyday discussion between these two main organizations. What else I can say about the lesson learned? Yes, I mentioned my how we earned the CIMIC experiences and how we start developing and improving. And every half year we publish the CIMIC handbooks for Kosovo. And also that was not only for Kosovo, because at that time we already had CIMIC officers in Iraq and also in Afghanistan. So we start to build up a kind of Hungarian way of CIMIC and PSYOPS, about the working style, about developing productions, and also about how we can contribute the commander's decision making in its operational planning process. So all in all, I can tell you that from military point of view, the operation is important for the Hungarian troops and also for individual officers, not only in the KFOR but also in a civilian structure like UNMIC. And staying in UNMIC is position where we had around 10,000 civilians from, I don't know, around 100 countries, and we were only 37 military person. It's a good access for different information, to understand different point of views, to learning different working style and decision-making process, and also different organization culture. So what we earned there, and also what the KFOR earned during this time, or my time, 2005, 2006, it was like understanding how we operate in a multinational environment, how we preparing for for the future operations, how we contribute for the decision-making process, and in a multinational environment, how the command and control are conducted. And also it gives good feedback for the preparation, for the training. As General Kajári mentioned, he had a long pre-training before he was selected and he was deployed. So all information which came in the last 22 years or 20 years back to Hungary, that's helped to the trainers to train the next generation of peacekeepers or troops to be deployed for this kind of mission area. So more or less, this is what I really like to give as an answer for your question, and I'm ready to answer any question if I'm able to. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your presentation. And also we got already a question, but I think we shall reply to any questions at the end of the session. So here I would like to invite our colleague Ferenc to share his experiences, his knowledge about the other side. I mean, we have already referred on the Hungarian to the Hungarian point of view, the Hungarian contribution to the Kosovo force. We have talked about the Kosovo force itself and its contribution or difficulties to its contribution to the stability in the region, in Kosovo, and so on. But what's the perception of the Kosovo force for the locals? I mean, the Kosovar Albanian majority and the Serbian minority, and also Belgrade perception about the NATO mission. So the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Zoltán. And I would also like to welcome the audience. I hope you can hear and see me well. Answering your question, well, I will try to, first of all, zoom in from a researcher's point of view and explain how the KFOR as a mission is being perceived by the local communities and also by the politicians from Pristina and Belgrade alike. In this regard, what I can say very confidently is that the KFOR mission is in a very unique position because it currently enjoys the support and trust of all parties involved on the political levels as well as on the level of the society. And this current state gives a huge privilege, not only to the mission, but in my opinion, to the Hungarian commander's work, because in this way, the mission enjoys such a high legitimacy from all of these parties involved. So first of all, I will start with the perspectives of the local communities, the Kosovo Albanians and the Kosovo Serbs and other communities living in Kosovo. And then I will briefly mention how the political elites and the politicians in Kosovo and then Serbia perceive and legitimize the KFOR's presence in Kosovo. Like I mentioned, and like it was said before, KFOR is the most important security mechanism in Kosovo, and it is accepted by all communities. The reasons, and what is, I think, very important from my perspective, is that these reasons for acceptance is based on completely different grounds among the different ethnic groups and communities. When it comes to Kosovo Albanians that make up roughly 92% of the population, they perceive KFOR in a very positive light. They perceive the mission as the liberator of the country after the Kosovo conflict that took place at the very end of the 1990s. And in addition to this, KFOR is also being somehow closely linked in their minds, if you will, not just to NATO, but with the prospect of NATO membership. According to the Kosovo Security Barometer, 89% of respondents highly support Kosovo's accession to NATO, out of which 96% are Albanians. Needless to say that the presence and deployment of KFOR mission doesn't mean that Kosovo is closer to gaining or achieving NATO membership, especially if you consider the fact that 4 NATO members don't recognize the independence of Kosovo, but still KFOR as a mission not only represents security for them, but it also represents a high support, a high Western support for their integration to the Euro-Atlantic military and political structures alike. When it comes to, on the other hand, to the Kosovo Serb community, they see and perceive the mission as the main security guarantor that can protect their well-being in the territory of Kosovo. When it comes to this Serbian community in Kosovo, what is interesting is that their approval of KFOR and their relationship to KFOR have been very volatile in the last 2.5 decades. For example, right after the armed conflict, the Serbian community expected KFOR to stop the reprisal of Albanian attacks from across the Ibar River, and also during the riots that took place in 2004 and some atrocities that took place right before and after Kosovo declared its independence in 2008. You could see that the approval of KFOR by the Kosovo Serbs were pretty low. Luckily, given the KFOR's role in their everyday lives and given the security situation that changed positively over these years, the KFOR's approval also rebounded in the Kosovo Serb community as well. It is also being perceived as the only force strong enough to prevent Serbian exodus from the majority Albanian areas that are located south from the Ibar River. So in generally, when it comes to the Kosovo Serb community, at this point, the mission also enjoys a high level of support. And interestingly, compared to other security institutions operating in the territory of Kosovo, such as some aspects of the EULEX or the Kosovo police, KFOR by far is the most popular one. And since I drew a comparison between KFOR and other international missions or actors working in the fields of security in Kosovo, I think it is also worth mentioning and stressing that by far KFOR is the most accepted and popular one, which also gives the mission a huge leverage in terms of creating good social and political relationship with these communities. For example, KFOR, unlike UNIC or EULEX to some extent, doesn't being perceived by the local communities as an overly politicized actor or organization. For example, when it comes to organizations EU-related, somehow related to the European Union, such as EULEX or the EU office itself, promises that were made by the European Union, but yet to be fulfilled, such as visa liberalization, are often being linked to the everyday activities of these EU-related missions. On the other hand, when it comes to KFOR, KFOR in this sense still remains the symbol of NATO, Western engagement, and most notably strong US presence and engagement towards Kosovo and also towards the region's peace and security. One additional feature that I was glad that that Commander Kajári mentioned is that KFOR has a very good visibility. I used to live in Kosovo, and I can only agree with Commander Kajári's statement that the KFOR radio channel is very popular indeed among the local population. And given that the mission involves itself to different domains of everyday life in Kosovo through its civil-military cooperation, that also gives a lot of visibility And therefore, it's a good way to build trust with local politicians, stakeholders, as well as with civilians in Kosovo. So that was basically how the Kosovo communities perceive, I would say, very much positively the KFOR mission. And now let me turn into the political levels. When it comes to politicians from Pristina and Belgrade, what I can say is that both capitals support the mission, but for different grounds, for different purposes. From a Serbian perspective, from a Belgrade perspective, if you will, the KFOR provides protection to the Serb community and acts as a safeguard to the cultural and religious heritage and sites of the Serbian Orthodox Church that are in the territory of Kosovo. And also very importantly, the mission's so-called status neutral approach towards the status of Kosovo and the fact that the KFOR was established by the legally binding UN Security Council Resolution 1244 also gives, from Belgrade's point of view, a tremendous legitimacy to the KFOR's presence in Kosovo. When it comes to Pristina and Kosovo Albanian political parties and actors, KFOR also remains in their eyes the guarantee of their struggle for independence, a guarantee of the US engagement and support. And what is also interesting is that even the current Prime Minister of Kosovo, Mr. Albin Kurti, who back then was very known for his very vocal stances against the international community and international presence in Kosovo, back then he didn't really make a big fuss about the KFOR's presence in Kosovo, but rather he focused on, let's say, the negative implications that UNIC or EULEX had in Kosovo. So you can say is that in this regard, the political sphere is also united. They support the NATO's KFOR mission in Kosovo, but like I mentioned, and similarly to the different ethnic communities, this overwhelming support derives from pretty much different approaches and grounds. And I'm going to finish with this and pass back the mic to you, Zoltán, is that I think from a Hungarian point of view, and maybe from the point of view of the Hungarian commander, this overwhelming support towards NATO is a huge opportunity. Maintaining good relations with all of the parties involved, obviously, is one of the most important tasks that the KFOR mission has. But I can obviously imagine that sometimes, even when there's a crisis looming somewhere, especially in the north of Kosovo, it might be very challenging, or it can be very challenging to tackle between these 2 or 4 or whatever, how many sides. But so far, I really believe that the Commander Kajári has done a tremendous good job in terms of tackling between all of this interest and different approaches towards NATO's mission in Kosovo.
Thank you very much for your insightful presentation. And we have already got 2 questions from the audience. I don't know whether you can see, but I will read to everyone. First question is that the EU will soon complete the strategic compass calling for a tailor-made strategic approach with partners. Is the EU role in Kosovo expected to change? And we have another questions as well. Tensions have also increased in Bosnia, as we know, due to several statements of Milorad Dodik and and several decisions of the Serbian parliament concerning the integrity of the country. Anyway, we will see in the coming months what will happen at the end. But the question points out that is there any cooperation between the KFOR and EU4 Althea? And if there is anything on the table, what kind of cooperation we can find. So I turn to our speakers, if you would like to comment it.
Yeah, gladly. I can comment on the first question, if I may. I don't think the EU's role in Kosovo are expected to change. If a change is to be happen, it can only be a positive change. From the point of view, and I keep coming back to the local communities, the prospect of EU membership, or let's say advancing into EU membership step by step, enjoys also high support from this from the local communities. But when it comes to EU and the EU office, they are mostly concerned with political issues related to political issues. I don't know if Mr. Boldizsár would like to take the second question.
Gentlemen, if you agree, I can answer the second question regarding KFOR and EU4 Althea cooperation. As I told you during my opening remarks, I tried to establish a good living connection to each of my counterparts, and that's what I have done towards EU4 Althea as well. Early during the preparation, I already met the then commander EU4 Althea and exchanged views on the security situation of the region, and we agreed in permanent connection and discussion with the commander, and that's what basically I have done since I took over command. We agreed that pending the situation, we are discussing how we see our areas of operation on a monthly basis, and done that coordinated. How we see our areas of operation. And well, with the new commander, with the General Vesely, I haven't been able to talk yet. He just took over command a few weeks ago. And due to weather restrictions, I was not able to attend to the change of command ceremony, but we agreed that as soon as possible, I will meet him. First through a VTC, but then if possible in person, and we will continue maintaining this kind of discussion between the two commanders. And of course, also our staffs are keeping in touch and exchanging views. And in regard to the second part of the question, what kind of cooperation we are doing, the first is, as I said, sharing the information. But also, I think it's known that the KFOR provides a reserve force for EU4 Althea. So if the security situation deteriorating in Bosnia in a way that they need to deploy additional forces, KFOR is one of the options to provide a reserve unit to that operation as well. If that answers the question. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your answers. And I also turn again to the audience whether we have any other questions. Okay, I don't think so. We didn't get any. others. Still, I have a question. If I have time, and taking my position as a moderator, I will use the opportunity and I turn towards our panelists. So, concerning in the general framework of Hungarian foreign policy in the Western Balkans, how do you see the importance of KFOR and the Hungarian participation in maintaining the stability of the, or the, let's say, the peace in the region from the perspective of Budapest? So I don't know, Ferenc or Professor Bodzsár would like to take this question.
I'm sure I can start, and then Professor Bodzsár can continue. So, yeah, I mean, you absolutely rightfully mentioned that for the Hungarian foreign policy strategy, the Western Balkan region enjoys a high priority. And one of those priorities within this strategy is maintaining peace and security. Because Hungary also realized long ago that it is only through a secure and peaceful environment that also enables economic development of the region and the prospect of Hungarian companies, Hungarian economic presence in the region. I don't want to go back 20 plus years, but it must be mentioned that this interest of Hungary has been long-rooted, and also Hungary has always been active, not just in KFOR, but also, for instance, like we mentioned in Bosnia, in the EUFOR Althea mission. Going back to Kosovo and talking about Hungarian diplomacy, it's a huge success from a diplomatic point of view as well. But first of all, given this priority that the region enjoys, and given the fact that Kosovo is only a couple of hundreds kilometers from the Hungarian border, it also gives Hungary an importance to actively participate in the KFOR mission. And from experience of friends that served in KFOR, I can say confidently that it's also very beneficial for soldiers to get first-hand experience in a rather friendly environment. In addition to this, I think it's a huge testament that the NATO allies are satisfied with the Hungarian presence in Kosovo in general. They are satisfied, and Hungarians in KFOR are also being positively acknowledged by the international community and Western actors. And it's also a testament that Hungary is in fact highly committed to the region, and the Hungarian military structures and personnel are able to fulfill such a tremendous job as leading an international peacekeeping mission in Kosovo.
Okay, thank you. I don't know.
Yep.
Yes, Professor.
So my point of view that just remember to 1991, 1992, when the disintegration of Yugoslavia started. That was a brand new independent Hungarian country. At that time, I was military. So I second or third year was my service. So the Hungary faced with the problem that there are a huge instability on its south border, very open south border. So that was a kind of crisis response operation for a country which just came out from the Warsaw Pact and the Western direction-oriented attack alliance. And after we see that 1999, when the Kosovo crisis were increased and the bombing starts, how the stock exchange, so we see the economy, the security situation and the economic situation, how the Hungarian stock exchange fell down, because from the investors, it was the same, it looks like the same region for investing their money from United States or from Central Asia or some other countries. So that's I believe, as an associate professor, that's a national interest to integrating our economical interest with our political and also with our military interests. So all the three things is interconnected, and they are supporting each other. So this is a kind of like when we are speaking about the comprehensive approach. There's 3 logical line of action: political, in this case, it's a foreign policy; economical, so this is a foreign economical investment and interest of Hungary; and also the security. So that's why we are deploying troops. And don't forget, we are deploying also police officers for EULEX, and then before in ANMIC we had 10 police officers, and today we have around 60 police officers there. So Hungary making a complex effort for the direction, and that's a good steps, because the situation in the Western Balkan, the situation in Kosovo has a direct impact in Hungary. And don't forget, on 1991, 1992, and later, we see the displaced person, we see the refugees came to our country. So they didn't want to go further. They were waiting for the end of the bloody war in Yugoslavia. But the brand new country of Hungary 30 years ago faced the instability in the south border and the mass movement of the people who want to save their life, and later on they turned back to Bosnia-Herzegovina after Kosovo. So from my side, that seems me a governmental coordinated effort, like what we did in Afghanistan, when we had a coordination office, coordination board among the ministries who were interested in Afghanistan effort. So it gives me the signal that that's the whole of government approach, or the comprehensive approach in practice. So that's the end of my comment.
Thank you very much. And as I do not see any other questions, I think it's time to close our roundtable discussion and our conference. I think it was really useful to everyone who wanted to get really insightful information about the Hungarian military contribution, the Hungarian presence within the KFOR from the really first hand. And we are in a really historical moment, as it was outlined previously, that the Hungarian we have a Hungarian commander at the top of the KFOR, which gives a unique opportunity to Hungary to boost its regional image and importance in the whole region. And I'm sure that during the upcoming period, months and years, we will organize other events concerning to outline and see the new development concerning the Hungarian contribution to the KFOR and regional stability, which will in the upcoming foreseeable future, let's say, still a hot issue, not just for the region and not just for the neighboring countries, but for the NATO as well. So I would like to again thank your participation, our keynote speakers and panelists, and I wish you a really nice lunch as we are starting to finish our session. So thank you, and see you in another occasion at the IFET or ISDS.